Swimrun Podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 74 of the show. This week, we have the founder of Synergy Wetsuits, Stefan Laursen. So get ready to learn about Stefan's fascinating background, his ambitious swimrun program at Synergy Wetsuits, and really get a behind-the-scenes look at all the research and development that went into making their new swimrun wetsuit. So this week is basically Synergy Week. So, you know, we'll talk about it later in the show, but we released a Gear Talk episode where we reviewed their new wetsuit. And we talked with the founder, which was really interesting to kind of do those things back to back. But yeah, more on that later in the show.
Now for training updates. So we're just a couple of swim runners now, Chris. Our pool was closed last week, so it was open water 3 times last week for us, which...
Yeah, it was also open water 4 times, and then swim runs. We did 3 swim runs in a 1 week period, which that's for us that's good. We should have done it this week because it's big battle week.
We should have done it, but we didn't. But anyway, we did get a lot of swim runs in, and we have Ödyssey Swimrun Casco Bay coming up just in 2 months' time. So now it's time to get some work, sharpen those knives. #LFG. Now, time for shoutouts.
Yeah, so this week we're shouting out Adrian Cameron. He rocked a 3rd place finish at the CapTex Triathlon in Austin over the weekend. And he was rocking his Low Tide Boyz shirt on the freaking podium.
Nice.
So strong work out there, dude. If you guys don't know who Adrian is, by the way, you should check out our addendum to episode 38, which is our Ödyssey Swimrun Austin course preview show. Adrian was out there for a training day, scoped out the course, and just gave us a ton of intel. And we just he was like
solid.
Yeah, he was like DMing us and was like, "Hey, do you want to be on the show real quick?" And we'll just record all this. And it was awesome. So Adrian, special place in our heart, and super stoked you're rocking that shirt.
Thanks Adrian for that. Good on you. Now for this week's feats of endurance. This week's winner is Piet Weiss from the Netherlands. Just casually cycled nearly 200 miles, 193.44, in just over 10 hours. Double centuries are something that we are familiar with. We have done, some of us have done more than others.
Yeah.
On this.
Well, I made you do one.
I wouldn't say I begrudgingly volunteered. I think I was on board for that.
I think you were intrigued.
Yeah, I was curious what this sort of level of suffering would look like. But 10 hours is an incredible feat, and it's never easy. When you're doing anything for 10 hours, whether it be cycling, swim running, walking, hiking, 10 hours is a long time, so way to get out there, Piet, and make it look easy.
Do you want to hear a funny factoid about Piet's ride?
I would love to.
So it was basically a double century. He lives in the Netherlands, which is notoriously super flat.
Yeah.
It's only 600 feet of climbing.
Oh my God.
Like when we lived in San Francisco, audience,
you couldn't get back to your house.
You couldn't get out of your neighborhood without at least doing 300 feet of climbing.
Yeah.
Wherever you were trying to go, one way or another, you had to go over a hill somewhere.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Is it 600 just stepping on and off the curb over 200 miles? That probably would do it. So if you're looking for some inspiration in your training life or a place to fire off your swim run questions or training questions, make sure you make your way over to the Low Tide Boyz Strava Club. You can connect with fellow swim runners there as they train and race all over the world. You give kudos, you receive kudos. It's one big Kumbaya swim run kudos fest. So join us over there on the Low Tide Boyz Strava Club, 230 plus strong now.
Well, I just checked 2 minutes ago.
Drum roll.
245.
245 strong.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've gotten a lot of love lately, which we'll talk about in the updates, and I think that's a contributing factor. But
I think you're right. I think you're right. But now, speaking of a growing number, This Week in Swimrun, powered by RaceID.com.
Yeah, so lots of swimrun news to share this week, but we did get some feedback in our DMs that people are enjoying this segment. So
wonderful.
So I'm not going to quit on them just yet, even though they're becoming. It's great. It's great that there's so much more news to share. Hopefully, this won't grow into its own show. So anyway, the Bellingham Swim Run, hosted by Quest Races and friend of the pod Brent Molesbury. That race is definitely happening, and it's definitely happening this Sunday, June 6th. You can get all the details on their website, and all the links are in our show notes, so you can get those there. If you're anywhere in that area, you should definitely go do that race.
Do it.
Ödyssey Swimrun recently released their latest course overview video for Casco Bay. So anyone that's registered or interested in registering for the original Ödyssey event, you should definitely check out that video on YouTube. Some really good stuff in there. That's also a little bit of foreshadowing for our course preview episode for Casco Bay that's going to be coming out in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. In international news, Swimrun Sumin took place over the weekend in Sumin, Poland. It's great to see these races coming back. I remember hearing about this race last year when we were doing the show. And it looks like this one was a lot of fun, a lot of mix of terrains. And if you should check out their website because their course description infographics are actually one of the coolest that I've seen, where it breaks down the swim and run legs longitudinally. So you kind of see like, oh, you're swimming for an inch and then you're running for, an inch and a quarter and then swimming. Anyway, it's really cool. Sorry for nerding out on everyone there. Swimrun Edmonton, where yours truly won a prize for participating in their virtual event last year. They recently announced that this year's event will be non-virtual, in person, and it's going to be taking place on July 25th in Terwilliger Park in Edmonton, Canada. So the race is taking place July 25th in Terwilliger Park in Edmonton, Canada. So registration's open now. So if you're in those parts, you should definitely go check out that race, not just because me and Sandrine won a prize last year. In the category they did what now? This is a new category. A bunch of swim runners from Swimrun Côte d'Azur completed the 6th edition of the Ultra Swim Run of the Maritime Alps. This was a 78K, 67K of running, and 11K of swimming coastline swim run from Le Triat to Belus-sur-Mer. Anyway, basically from west of Cannes to east of Nice in southern France.
Wow.
Amazing. It took them all day, obviously.
That's a big day right there.
Speaking of Swimrun Côte d'Azur, their main event is now scheduled for October 24th, and registration is open now. They're offering an 8K, 17K, and 30K distance options, and they actually have a really cool refund policy that's worth mentioning, where basically all participants will get 100% of the registration fee refunded in case there's any COVID lockdowns that come down the pike. So risk-free to sign up, and if you want to learn more about the swimrun scene in the south of France, definitely check out episode 48 with Lorene and Irina from Team Swimrun Mermaids. That was a great episode. Really fun episode. Finally, on-vol coaching big battle has officially begun. Low Tide Boyz are in last place. Anyway, so make sure you're following at On-vol Swimrun on Instagram. They're doing daily progress updates. And swimrunners can still sign up. So join a team. Don't let FOMO take hold. Sign up at onvolcoaching.net. If you're some super stud swim runner, join our team.
We could use a ringer too.
We have a couple ringers, but the more ringers, the better, I think. Anyway, that's it for this week. Feel free to email us to tip us off of any events or swimmer news that you'd like for us to share on the show.
Yes, now for Low Tide Boyz updates. So last week, I would say Chris was probably the pinnacle of excitement for us.
It was a big week.
It was a big week for us. So
it was a big week. I don't know it was as great as Chipper being quoted in the New York Times, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I honestly, somehow that didn't bubble to the top as like the most, I don't know why. It's just how it's craziness. There's so much craziness going on. So we were in the throes of the Ödyssey Swimrun Instagram stories takeover. We were lighting it up, to be honest. I mean, I think we posted over 150 stories in a week.
Might have been too much.
So we might have overdone it.
Yeah.
So sorry about that, everybody. But we also released our first short film titled Swimrun Confessions, and it features the acting debut of Chris's wife, Susan.
Yeah.
I thought she did a tremendous job in this reviewer's eyes.
So did I.
Did a tremendous job. You can find Swimrun Confessions on our Instagram IGTV area. So if you don't know where the IGTV, go to our profile. It's the middle little icon. It looks like a TV with a lightning bolt on it.
Yeah. Oh, and the footnote on
funny.
That. If folks are liking that, let us know, because my wife and I actually have a couple ideas for other short, ridiculous films. So let us know if you like that content.
So if you like, give us feedback on that. So if that wasn't enough for the week, we got the Instagram, we got Swimrun Confessions going. our friend of the show and guest from episode 28, Adam Skolnick, fellow swimrunners. Well, he rocked his Low Tide Boyz hat on the bi-weekly podcast Roll On, which he co-hosts with the one Rich Roll.
Yeah, no big deal.
No big deal on that one.
Just a huge, inspiration for us as fellow podcasters.
Massive
and
endurance.
Someone everybody looks up to if you're in the endurance world for the most part. Yeah, no big deal.
It was literally, we were sleeping and we woke up, and Chris and I, we had a swim in the morning, so we were up early, I think, before 5 o'clock, and we looked in the Low Tide Boyz email, and there was an email from somebody that said,
people are letting us know.
I saw your hat on the Rich Roll show, and I was like, I don't think we've been on the Rich Roll show before. And I go and I pull it up, and literally the show opens with shout out to the Low Tide Boyz. And I was like, what universe are we living in right now that this is happening?
So, we're big fans of Rich and Adam, and it was a major thrill for us for our tiny show to be mentioned. But honestly, I think it was even a bigger thrill to see all of our fans be pretty much as super stoked as we were.
They got a lot of love on Rich's post that he posted on his thing, and there was the Low Tide Boyz hat right there, and just seeing all the, like you said, all the fans, friends of the show. You listen to one episode, you listen to everyone just going in there and commenting, and it was just such a cool experience and super humbling, and we're like super appreciative of all that. But enough of that, I guess.
And it was awesome.
It was really cool, and the hats are flying off the shelf. So if you want an Adam Skolnick hat, you better hurry. Go to lowtideboys.com.
We should change the name of it. We should
the Adam
like
Skolnick.
The Adam Skolnick.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll do it. So are you looking to do an Ödyssey Swimrun race this year? Well, you can join us at 3 of them, Casco, Orcas, and Austin. Use the code LOWTIDE15 and you'll save 15% off your registration. So come out and join us at some races, have fun, see the Low Tide Boyz, save some coin, race an Ödyssey race, win, all around there.
All the wins.
All the wins. Now, mark your calendars. If you're in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area in California, here, we're going to be holding an intro to swimrun session and swimrun practice at Aquatic Park, our go-to swimrun area in San Francisco, Saturday, June 5th at 7:30 a.m. So Precision Hydration was cool enough to provide some free hydration packets for everybody to check out, and we'll also have some bonus swag that we'll be giving away. So if you're new to swimrun or you just want to practice with some other people, come out and join us Saturday, June 5th.
Yeah.
Now, in case you haven't noticed, this week is officially Synergy Week in the Low Tide Boyz land. So check out our latest Gear Talk show where we broke down and reviewed the Synergy Swimrun Wetsuit with our good friends, Annie and Brooke from Swimrun Labs.
Yeah, the $200.
The $200. Plus, there's a little discount code Easter egg in there, too, so you might want to pay attention if you're looking to get that.
There is.
One final note. We have been saying we're up in the video content. Well, we haven't been letting you down. Chris had a great idea to produce a couple small videos that are also on our Instagram TV, and they will be on our YouTube channel soon enough. One of those is 2 different pull buoy mounting options. So we have the sort of the simple V mount, and then the lasso mount.
You almost had it.
I almost had it on that one. And then we also, a great one that we get a lot is how do you do swimrun transitions? So a full step-by-step guide about your swim to your run transition, and then how to flip it and reverse it from run back to swim.
Nice one.
So check those out. Those will be on our YouTube channel soon enough, but they're also on our Instagram right now. Now for this week's interview with Stefan Laursen.
Yeah, so we're just going to go right into this one because there's just a lot of meaty content here, but Stefan was an awesome guest. Like, his passion for wetsuits and performance is really only matched by his like deep experience and knowledge in the industry. Like, since he was 13, basically, he started building his own wetsuits and became a pro, then ultimately transitioned to making wetsuits full time. We talked about how how Synergy grew to basically be this award-winning company that basically makes
word of
wetsuits
mouth
for elites. Yeah. Like, they don't spend too much time on marketing. They just build awesome wetsuits. And then we talked about why he chose to enter the swimrun space. We talked a lot about the R&D process that they use for their new entry-level suit, and also their plans for their elite swimrun suit, which I thought was super interesting. And that's not we haven't gotten that content before when we've talked with wetsuit companies before. So it was pretty cool to get that from them. But yeah, I think that's enough foreshadowing for this. I
concur.
Yeah. And make sure you check out the show notes because the Easter egg that Chipper mentioned in the updates, it's also in the show notes. So you can just go there for it.
So, without further ado, let's dive right in to Synergy Wetsuits founder Stefan Laursen. The code is SRLabs25.
It's also in the show notes.
It's also in the show notes.
All right, with us today we have Stefan Laursen, who's the founder of Synergy Wetsuits. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris.
We're really excited to have you. Recently we've been testing out the new entry level Swimrun wetsuit that you guys put out, and we want to talk about that wetsuit, but we'd love to learn more about you and how you started this company and kind of like how it developed over the years.
So I grew up in Denmark, and my mom's American, my dad was Danish, and I was at a summer camp in the States. I was 10 years old and just sucked at every single sport that they presented me with. And my brother was this superstar of a sports guy. And I just decided that I'd had enough and I wanted to be good at something. So from one day to the next, I started training 15 to 20 hours a week, playing badminton and running and biking.
Wow.
To be really fit for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so very quickly at that young age, no other 10-year-old is putting that kind of effort in. So you very quickly get good and you rise through the ranks. And then a friend of mine, when I was 13, invited me to do a triathlon. This was back in 1983 when triathlons were just coming about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't swim. I mean, I could swim like slight breaststroke kind of thing. So this was an indoor pool swim, and then the bike and run was outdoor. And I was one of the last to get out of the pool. But then I made it all up on the bike and run and finished third.
Nice.
And I thought overall, so I thought at 13 that maybe I should do another one. And a few weeks later, there was a fairly big one. It was like a half Ironman in my hometown. But I didn't have a wetsuit, and it's in Denmark. The ocean is super cold. So in homeroom at school, we were knitting some scarf, and my teacher had said if we didn't want to do that, we could make a pair of pants or whatever we wanted. So I suggested to her maybe we could make a wetsuit because my parents didn't want to fund one. And when I had gone to the store that was selling wetsuits, I knew the guy and I had asked him for a deal, and he was kind of snarky about it and said I could buy the rubber and make my own. And so I took him up on that. And we made one in school. My teacher there, she was quite a good pattern maker. So we got the pattern pretty well done. And it worked brilliantly. I finished second overall in that race. And then it just kind of went from there, where I was trying to augment my swim because I wasn't a naturally good swimmer. And when you start kind of late and you're competing with guys who started swimming when they were 4 and 5, you have a lot to make up. So I started experimenting, making them really thick for buoyancy and super flexible for good arm movement, and balancing with different thickness to get your legs up more, and just basically getting myself in that pencil position to have a really fast swim.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 16, I turned pro, and basically just tried to seek out wetsuit swims because then I wouldn't lose a lot of time.
Right.
And in 96, I finished second in the pro national championships for USTA. And then I kind of got late start at pursuing the Olympics, but I was doing the ITU circuit. But again, I would only do all the ones that had wetsuits because ITU had become draft legal. So it had this big influx of Olympic swimmers who kind of wanted to have a second go at the Olympics.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't quite make it in swimming, but because they didn't have to know how to bike very well, they just had to also be good runners. They could still put in a 17-minute mile swim.
Mm-hmm.
And for guys like me, we had no chance. We come back in like the third group, and there'd be so much to make up.
Yeah.
But if I had a wetsuit, I'd come in the second group and I could still make up, bridge up to the first group on the bike. But usually you'd be so burnt up from that effort that you didn't have the kind of run you needed to have.
Yeah, well, ITU 10Ks are, like 30, 35 minutes or something?
Those Brownlee brothers those are speedy. There's some speedy dudes right there.
Yeah.
Yes. And back in my day, we were running 33, 32 minutes, and now they're running 30 flat. I mean, it's down, how fast it is. But that's the short of how I got into it. And then when I was having good results with my wetsuits, other pros would be asking me about if I could make some for them. And so it became a business. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then in the mid-90s, I met a guy who had a brand in New Zealand, and he and I formed Orca together. And so at one point, Orca was the biggest wetsuit brand.
Yeah, of course.
In triathlon. And then we split ways, and it actually, what happened in that split was that I got back to Synergy. I'd already done Synergy back when I was a kid. That was the same name I used. Mm-hmm. And then 2XU was formed out of that split. And funny enough, another brand called 4, which was short for fuck off Orca. But that was because that guy I had a partner with, he was not a good dude, and he left a lot of people with some repentant anger issues. But that's kind of how we then went into it, and then we've just been building Synergy from a product base. Unlike, say, brands like Roka that was a marketing company first and then came up with a product. Mm-hmm. That has actually been a very successful way for them to become a large brand. Yeah. We took a different tack where we just wanted it to be based on really high quality, elite performing products. And we've never had a marketing department. We've never paid any athletes to wear our stuff, and yet we've had Ironman world champion Frederick van Dier call us up and ask if he could have our suit and say, you don't have to pay me, you don't have to do anything, I just want to use your suit. I tested everybody else's suits and found yours to be the fastest.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like it's not just him. There's a lot of, right when we got the box in the mail, so thank you so much for sending the suits. Yeah, well. A lot of accolades, like fastest overall in the Gear Lab, an Amazon bestseller, best bang for your buck from Lava, Editor's Choice, again, Triathlete magazine.
Impressive.
Yeah, it sounds like, people are eating what you're cooking.
Yes, but we basically are a word of mouth kind of brand, and we're going to try and change that in the years to come and really get the word out, because I think we saw some brands that we thought were kind of subpar quality products, but they had the marketing machine behind it in a way that made them, accelerated them in the market. And we could see that we were not seeing that kind of acceleration. We have obviously during COVID, and we've seen growth every single year, but
awesome.
We want to get it further out there.
Well,
it's such, I love kind of just the genesis of the whole company. It's like you had a need and you built something, a product to solve that. And now people are loving that product, and that's how that kind of growth continues. That's really, I'm curious, how bad was the chafing on that V1 mock-up when you were in your teens? How bad was the chafing?
It was actually a fantastic suit. The only thing I did then that I would not do today was I had more zippers, like for quick exit, and there was a lot of things I didn't know about materials, and materials have come a long way. We have the secret to why our suit gets consistently ranked the fastest is that we have this balance between the highest level of buoyancy and the highest level of flexibility. And so when you combine those two in the right way, and you're basically able to level the swimmer out as much as possible in the water, stiffen up the back so that you can eliminate snaking, and all the things that most swimmers, even very good swimmers, will have some degree of, it's just hard not to become the fastest, because some of these other suits, if you look at who's behind them, there's rarely a person who's very familiar with swimming at like a very high level, or what the challenges are if you're not a very good swimmer.
Yeah.
And I've been on both sides of that. I mean, now I'm a decent swimmer, because
years and years,
a couple base miles.
You overcome it eventually, but it's hard to close in that last. I mean, it sounds funny, but you're just trying to close 1 minute. But if you're 1 minute behind an Olympic swimmer, you're a really good swimmer, but there's too much to make up on the bike.
Yeah, totally. Well, it sounds like you got a really good stranglehold on the triathlon suit and kind of the full, we'll just call them full wetsuits. I don't know technically what they're called. I'm going to call them full triathlon wetsuits.
Yes.
But I would love to hear kind of your approach. I mean, swimrun is a relatively general sport, or a generally newish sport, especially in the United States. And I would love to kind of hear how you approach your line of swimrun suits, because Chris and I mean, we've looked at 20 different swimrun specific wetsuits between us. And, we see the people that pretty much said, okay, here's our triathlon suit. Let's cut it above the knees, and let's cut it above the elbows, and put the zipper on the front, and we'll sell it as a swimrun suit.
Yes.
And quickly you'll find out, if you're using one of those, it's not a great suit for swimrun.
Right.
So I would love to hear kind of your approach for designing and you're iterating on the suit. Okay.
So just a little background on that. So I was doing swimrun back in the 80s with my classmates in Sweden before swimrun was a thing. As you're aware, there's all these little islands up in the Swedish Skärgården.
Oh, we're aware.
Yeah.
There's a big lake areas with lots of little islands inside. And we used to do this thing where we would, it was really fun. It was like a capture the flag kind of game, but we would swim between the islands and then run across the islands, but with BB guns, and we literally be trying to shoot our opponent teams. It was absolutely brilliant. It was so much fun.
That's a militant operation. That sounds pretty fun.
It was. And I used to do these sessions in Tahoe also, where I put that. It's actually why I developed the Quick John wetsuit. So we have this little sleeveless shorty thing. Mm-hmm. And that was made for that exact kind of thing, where you could just run. So I live in something called the Tahoe Keys. And to get over to this beach where you can run all the way over and go through some other lakes, I have to cross a channel. Otherwise, I have to drive like 15 minutes around. And of course, nobody wants to do that. Yeah. So that's how I got going with all that stuff.
So it sounds like you're really familiar. So you knew that swimrun existed. At what point were you like, you know what? Why don't we go down this route and see if we can make a really great suit?
Yes. So what happened there primarily was that a bunch of my buddies who are elite swimrun guys, like Calvin Sawiski from Canada, he's 8 times Xterra world champion and holds all kinds of records, but he's now absolutely enamored with swimrun, and he's been asking me if I want to join him for some events.
You should.
And
highly recommend it.
We've been discussing the suit, because it wasn't that hard to make an entry-level suit, but to make an elite version of this has been something that has left a lot of discussion with the group that I work with on this. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, you're trying to create a balance between flexibility and durability, buoyancy and heat retention, smooth skin versus neoprene jersey. And so what you ultimately come up against is speed versus durability. And from where I come from, it's about speed. If you want to win, you got to be the fastest, and every little bit counts. So for the suit, like I just want to speak to the elite suit, because I've been working on that lately.
Totally.
We've been trying different iterations of it, because ultimately, to have a fast swim, you need some buoyancy. But in swim run, you don't need a lot of buoyancy in your legs, because you have your pull buoy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you do want to have smooth skin on those legs, because anyone who's unless you can use a material that's more like a swim skin, because you don't want to have resistance when you're running, obviously.
Right.
And you don't want to have too much heat retention for your run, because then you start slowing down. So you're considering all this. And ultimately, your run is usually what takes up a lot of time. But the swim can be exhausting. I mean, we can build a lot of endurance in running. But if you have cold, hard swims, and you can lose a lot of time there. So if you want to win, you have to have a fast suit. And regardless of having a vest over it and all the other things that slow you down, there are just ways where you can be as efficient as possible, as balanced in the water as possible. And as you start getting tired, your swim gets sloppy. There's just so much that goes on. So what we're trying to balance an ease of use. So when you get out of the water, how easy it is to handle your suit, to create venting, open it up, and put it back on, of course, when you're about to run in the water again. You want to have some durability around the armhole for running. We have this thing where we were trying for a very, very flexible, thin material in the arms. And we get these shark, we call them like little shark tears, because it just didn't work for running. So then we worked with a special silicone coating, and that seems to have fixed that. So I think we have a handle on that piece. The same thing went for the crotch, but there, I think because it's between your legs, you can get away with some of this material that's very, very smooth, but it's still a double jersey neoprene material. And then you have to account for the pockets and for fuel and equipment and these things. Right. So we're working on a suit. Admittedly, this is not a secret. We buy everybody's wetsuits.
Sure.
And we look at everybody. Yeah, because everybody does. A lot of people. We've had plenty of people knock our stuff off. We don't do that, but we do want to learn if there's something we missed, or if there's a feature that somebody else is doing really well. And then we always look at how can we make it better yet. So we're buying ARC, we're buying Orcas, we're buying all these other suits, and we're studying them, we're using them, and we learn things. And it's fun. It is fun because you can kind of see the genesis of the design for those suits and compare it to what we're doing. So the suits we end up putting out, especially when it comes to elite, we do believe that they will be the very best. It's kind of pointless to me for us to put out a suit if we didn't think it'd be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. And your plans sound very enticing. You have my interest. And I'll speak for Chris. I think you have our interest. As the Low Tide Boyz, we're interested in what you're putting down.
With the entry level we launched first, normally we would make the elite first, and then we would have like a watered down version that was more affordable. This particular time we went the other way because we had this concept already kind of flushed out, but when COVID hit, we had so many problems getting the very high end materials and even sampling made. It was just, we just paid $2,000 for a sample to be sent to us. That was just a FedEx fee.
Wow.
And we're facing all kinds of shortages. The material, one of the raw materials that go into smooth skin, has run out, and now factories are trying to cancel half our orders.
Wow.
Ooh.
And luckily, we're very connected with factories, so we'll overcome most of that. But that's going to be a big, big issue coming down the pipeline for 2022.
Yeah, I'm seeing it on your site now. There's a lot of suits that are sold out.
Yeah.
Just can't even get them in stock.
Yeah, we had some fulfillments that were delayed, but we will. But during COVID, with all the pools closed, sales have gone through the roof because people are swimming outside.
Yeah, we've been talking to people all last year, and that was kind of a common thread that we were able to suss out of all this, is that there was a real draw to back to nature, similar to the experience that you were saying when growing up or when you were in Sweden and playing these sort of games across the islands, is just being in nature more and experiencing kind of open water swimming or wild swimming, whatever the kind of term you want to use is.
Yes.
Is that really brought people back and helped them kind of be more centered and present in this extremely difficult, 18 months that we just are currently still in, but
right,
had
exactly.
experienced. But
completely agree.
yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we were really impressed with the entry level suit is that it provides, Chris and I guess we're the only ones talking about this on a regular basis, it seems like. So we've kind of coined the take your triathlon suit, put the zipper on the front, cut it above the knees. We're saying that's Gen 1 Swimrun wetsuits, and then kind of this Gen 2. What we've said is Gen 2 is kind of the more arc focused about. It's more focused on how can we make the run as free as possible. I was pleasantly surprised upon opening the box to the entry level suit that it seems that you didn't do the easy way out, and it probably would have been much cheaper and a much easier process for you to just slap the zipper on the front and cut in a couple areas. But you're trickling down some of the learnings from the elite level suits into these entry level ones at a price point that people. It's pretty affordable, and you don't have to wait for a huge Black Friday sale to get a suit around $200. So I guess thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That wasn't a question, I guess, a long-winded statement.
I grew up kind of not poor, but my parents are extremely frugal. So I have a sensitivity to the cost of doing our sports. And I mean, I just think you shouldn't have to be paying $800 for a wetsuit. So I've developed, if you look across our line, I mean, we have suits that are inclusive for everyone.
Yeah.
Not everybody needs to have, 880% flex in their arms. They're happy just to do, 3 or 4 triathlons a year or whatever it is. They just want a decent suit. Mm-hmm. And so we make suits for every price level, so to speak, but I only try and make high quality products.
Sure. I think on that token, Stefan, you also have, a rental program, which I don't know a lot of triathlon, a lot of wetsuit companies that have that, where it's like, hey, we understand this is expensive. You want to rent it for 30 or 60 days?
Yeah.
We got you. So that's really great. I think, to piggyback on what Chipper was saying, I think, when we're evaluating swimrun suits, for us, the big demarcation, as Chipper mentioned, is sort of Gen 1 and Gen 2, where Gen 2 is kind of like below the belly button. It's a different material. It makes it easier for run, thinner, making sure you have flexibility in the hips. And like Chipper said, we were pleasantly surprised when we pulled it out. It was like, oh, this looks kind of like a Gen 1 style where it's just neoprene. But, when you inspect it closely, you see that the material is actually getting thinner as you get below the waist. And and in terms from a buoyancy perspective, having the neoprene on your quads makes sense. Now, for the back, you used the non-smooth neoprene. Now, what was the thinking there? Just to make it easier for running, or just you just didn't need to use the smooth in that?
Yeah, it was mainly because people often sit down on the rocks before they enter the water. When they put up their or tie their shoes or pull up their sleeves or what it is. And so if you have smooth skin there, you're just going to rip it apart. So
right.
that was
durability,
the real thing of that, and also that we're trying to think who is it who is interested in buying this type of suit. Are they gunning for the podium, or are they more there for a good experience and they don't want to come back with a totally torn up wetsuit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, in my opinion, if I can speak for Chipper, I mean, this is definitely what I would say. I mean, that should be the consideration for an entry level suit. Like, you want it to be functional so people get hooked on the sport and then want to upgrade at some point as they get into it. But you also want it to last, because what's the point of getting a suit if, it's not going to have the durability?
Single use or...
Yeah.
I mean, I personally tested some of the other brand suits, and I mean, I can only imagine the kind of warranty cost that they're dealing with. And I some of them I'm just like, I don't know that they can warranty everything, because they'll just be so expensive. I mean, they tore in the first use.
Yeah,
I just heard across from a lot of other athletes who've had those same suits that that was a waste of a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, some of the really high end ones are so delicate that it's you definitely feel like you need to baby them and not training them. Save them for your A race or something. Yeah. Now what's the timeline for your advanced suit? Is there a timeline? Or are you still in the R&D phase?
There it is. I think we will have it ready by this late fall or like early spring.
Nice.
We have a production, I think, set for the fall.
Okay, great.
So what we're doing with that particular one is that we also make swim skins, and we have a very, very good swim skin material. So we're planning on using that around the legs because it's basically a thin but very, very fast material. So it will be as fast as smooth skin. Yeah. And then we'll have smooth skin throughout the rest of the body. And we are designing it more like our pro tri-suit, so that it's very easy to vent and open up. It's very easy to handle. And we're just working on a couple of different iterations with the arm length to see if it should be like a 3/4 arm length or just a short arm length, so you can just add your own sleeves. Mm-hmm. Everybody has their own preference, but to me, there's just if it was me and I'm racing for the podium, there's just some things that I would rather not be carrying around or dealing with. I want to be as nimble and fast as possible and as efficient. And I mean, that's just my philosophy when it comes to elite. Yeah, I'm trying to design something for the person who's going to win, and I'm trying to think that it's going to be tight because fitness, for humans, we tend to get very, very close at the elite level. There's not that big a difference between the very, very best, and then it comes down to little tiny strategy and equipment choices, and we want to be that choice for the person who's going to win. And I know the thinking that goes behind it. I mean, it's, you know how it is. We're all, before a race, we're trying to think, okay, I don't want this flap to be sticking out and catching water or air or whatever it is. And that's just how it's going to be when you're towing the line. You want everything just to be really tight and
dialed in.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've heard the from even the people racing the first where they're bringing out literally blow up mattresses and putting their teammates on that and swimming on that too. That was how much gear there was for the first fins and swimming with your backpack on and a camelback and all this stuff. And then smash cut to and that's taking them 24 plus hours to complete the same Ödyssey course. And then now we're having people breaking 9 hours, and they are in essentially, I mean,
as little as possible,
as minimal gear setup as you can possibly get.
Yes, but with the best gear, right? I mean, you can see how the genesis of that had been. Yeah. So I think we're very well set up for Swimrun because we sell all the other products too that go into it. And a funny little side comment is we're actually the world's largest hand paddle sales company.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we have
more hand paddles than Speedo.
So, you know what?
Wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny, right?
Yeah. In fact, one of our close friends, she swears by them.
Yeah,
it's her go-to on
it's her go-to
gear on our gear show. She swears by the Synergies.
Yep.
Yeah, 10 colors, 3 sizes. You can't go wrong, and it's all silicone. Yeah, it's brilliant.
That's awesome.
That's really great. So Stefan, we really appreciate you taking the time to be on with us, and we can't let you go without, just thanking you so much for sending us some suits to demo, sending the Swimrun Labs some suits to demo, and we just really appreciate you doing that and letting us test it because, like we mentioned before we went on air, our mission for the show is to kind of help grow the sport in the U.S., but also make it accessible and inclusive and diverse. And accessibility, some of that usually comes down to price. So, really appreciate that you're thinking about the elite championship winning
both ends of the spectrum,
but you're also thinking about people coming into the sport. And I think, I think if I speak for Chipper, we want to commend you and thank you for that.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you so much for being this hub of community for the sport.
We're trying.
We're trying.
We're
definitely trying. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to the Low Tide Boyz, a Swimrun podcast. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review on iTunes if you're so inclined.
You can also sign up for a newsletter at lowtideboyz.com. That's boys with a Z. And check out our meme page at the Low Tide Boyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, drop us an email at lowtideboyz@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Writing Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swimrun activities, hobbies, and other bullshit we do.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
And then a run.
And then another swim.
Then another run.
And then another swim.
And then run to the finish line. And just keep going until you're done.
Yes, or
until
run
you
to
cross the finish line.
Or run to the car.
Or run to your car.
Somewhere. Just keep running.
Peace.
Only happiness.